The NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Edge Boost. Edge Boost enables you to double your bet with no interest. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to get started today. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Tuesday, June the 6th, currently 12:58 on the East Coast. Here to get into our betting picks for NBA Finals Game 3 between the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat. Series currently tied 1-1 as we shift Game 3 and 4 to South Beach. But joining me, help me to break it down. You guys know him as the voice of the Tennis Gambling Podcast, the WNBA Gambling Podcast, the NFL Gambling Podcast, and on the MLB, and here, of course, on the NBA. It's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man?
Nothing much. Looking forward to Game 3. Should be fun. Besides that, I know we briefly, I can't even say briefly, we talked about the game yesterday a little bit, so there might be some overlap, but for the most part, should be a lot of fun. And of course, unfortunately, I am not sweating out any tennis action right now, so this has my full attention.
There we go. And also joining us here, you guys know him as the voice on the MLB Gambling Podcast, and here on the NBA Gambling Podcast, it's Playoff Lante. Lante, what's going on, brother?
Hey man, not much. Just ready to get into the game. A lot of small adjustments that I think both teams can make, but overall, man, thought we were privileged to a decent ending. Looked good. I mean, it looked good for Denver early on, but good game to end. So hopefully we can have 4 or 5 more of these.
Yeah, we saw Miami steal Game 2 in Denver. They even up the series 1 game apiece. We could quickly recap and talk about some adjustments before we get into Game 3 of the NBA Finals for Wednesday. But, Lante, you mentioned you expect both teams to make some type of adjustments here headed into Game 3. If you have any takeaways from Game 2, if you want to go and discuss that, and then what adjustments are you expecting from both Denver and Miami?
Well, I'm expecting a little bit more Bruce Brown in this matchup. Not because of the one game that Michael Porter had, but because he gives them a lot more versatility on the wing as far as being able to handle the ball and defensive-wise, handle Strus and Vincent on those back screens. And some of the stuff that Miami was doing was confusing as far as switching and getting those guys wide open looks. So I think Bruce Brown's a little bit more attention to detail than Michael Porter Jr. Doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that. So I would expect not Michael Porter Jr. to see a humongous dip in minutes, but only in certain pockets. I think Bruce Brown will be more effective. I mean, as for Miami, I mean, they just got to keep bombs away from three. They keep shooting like they are. They're going to be a hard team to beat. I mean, I would expect Jimmy Butler to play a little bit better. He was pretty much non-existent for like 3 1/3 quarters. So he got bailed out by teammates. And I would expect some more of the inside. Denver went away from Aaron Gordon on the inside. I know Kevin Love was inserted into the lineup, but still not a big size advantage for Kevin Love on Aaron Gordon. I thought they went away from some of the things that they did well in Game 1. Other than that, man, I think we're just in for a good game. I think both teams will come out ready to go. We see Mike Malone firing up his team, him and Jerry, and also commenting on that effort and intensity. Never want to hear that if you're a player coming from a coach, a veteran player. So, yeah, man, looking forward to it. I think both teams, like I said, can make a few small tweaks, and we'll be in to see who can adjust in-game better than the other.
Scott, we briefly touched on some of the adjustments on the mothership last night with Sean and Kramer, but anything else as far as adjustments goes? I know we discussed that, but any other takeaways from Game 2 for the people?
I think the takeaway for Denver was simple. They have to do a better job guarding the three-point line. It seemed like in Game 1 and Game 2, all of the actions Miami were running were causing some confusion for Denver. I know Miami shot insanely well from 3, but you rewatch some of the shots they got from 3, there wasn't even a guy in the picture on a couple of these. Like, Miami got a bunch of great looks the entire night. Same thing happened in Game 1, just Miami bricked a bunch of shots. So the main adjustment for me has to be just Denver improving their coverage on the three-point line. Now, does that involve potentially using more Brown or Bruce Brown or Christian Brown as opposed to Porter Jr. and maybe KCP? Maybe. I mean, we're going to see what happens in Game 3. I don't think Malone's going to totally abandon his guys. But we also saw Christian Brown lose track of somebody on the three-point line in the second half. and then he got benched for it, and he didn't play again. So I'm not exactly saying that Christian Braun is the answer to their problems, but the main thing that I've noticed in the first two games, Denver's three-point coverage has been very, very underwhelming, and I do think that's the one thing that needs adjusting because Denver missed some shots. It happens. You know, it is what it is. Referees definitely weren't exactly giving Denver any favorable calls in game two. I thought the refs were pretty atrocious, to be honest, but Miami benefited from it. It is what it is. But I do think the main adjustment that Denver's going to have to make, Malone questioned effort. Effort, I mean, I guess that's one way to describe it. I just think they needed to do a better job of actually staying with their guys on defense. And I think that's the main adjustment they're going to make. They have to improve the three-point coverage, especially against this team.
Yeah, even in game one, Miami got the looks. They just, like you mentioned, they weren't able to
Strus went
lock
0
them
for
down.
9. Like, you rewatch it, Strus was open on most of those three-pointers.
And then in game two, he came out, he hit, I think, 4 in the first quarter. And I think that was, I don't want to say the difference, but kind of got Miami off to a great start in that game. So we'll see how the adjustments are made by Mike Malone, really trying to close out on these three-point shooters.
Well, what would you do? Do you have another adjustment you'd make? I do agree with Bruce Brown playing more once again because Michael Porter Jr., when he's not making shots, he's useless offensively because he just stands in the corner and does nothing. But I am wondering what your thoughts are for any other adjustments besides please stay with these good shooters that Miami has. That's kind of what I'm expecting the main adjustment to be.
Yeah, I don't think there's many more adjustments that can be made I know it's only game 3 and it's tied 1-1, but we know what are the keys to success for both these teams winning games and eventually winning the title, right? So for Miami, I think they're still going to get up the shots, but Mike Malone has to cook up or get more athletic guys or more guys out there that can close out on some of these shooters and take away those the open looks, especially Max Strus has been able to get over the first 2 games. So, and that's really been the difference, right? We talked about it with Miami. Max Strus wasn't able to knock it down in game 1. He was 0 of 9, came back in game 2. Hit, I think, first 3 out of 4 shots from beyond the arc for the Miami, or I think it was 4 that he hit in the first quarter. But we talk about Jimmy Butler as well. Like, we're all expecting him to be the Jimmy Butler that he was in the Milwaukee series. I don't want to say thus far they haven't needed him, but other guys, especially going back to the Boston series, like you had guys like Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent and some of the role players stepping up. But I think when it matters the most, I think Jimmy does, flip the switch. We've seen that in fourth quarters down the stretch where he's been atrocious, like Alonte was alluding to, with 3 in that third quarter or 3.5 quarters, where he just kind of flips the switch and gets to the basket and starts, attacking the basket and gets to the free throw line. But also, we'll talk about the Tyler Herro adjustment as well. I did see a note right before we started that he was a full participant in shoot around, so I do expect him to play on Wednesday for the Miami Heat. But yeah, we'll see what type of adjustments that Mike Malone makes. Obviously, number one is closing out on the three-point shooters. For Denver, I've said this last night, and I said this at the beginning of the series, that they need to play with more pace. They got down at the end of the game two, at the end of the first quarter in game 2, and you saw in the second quarter of game 2 that they came out with Jamal Murray. I don't think Jokic was on the floor at that point, but it was Christian Braun, Jamal Murray, KCP, I think it was Aaron Gordon, and then I think Michael Porter Jr., if I'm not mistaken. But they came out and they started playing with more pace, and they took, I want to say, a double-digit lead almost in that second quarter. So we'll talk about more of the second quarter. I do have more notes on that. We'll talk about that when we talk about the game 3 betting picks here. But yeah, I think we pretty much nailed it as far as adjustments and things like that for from game 1 and game 2 to carry over to game 3. Before we handicap game 3 here, guys, let me tell everyone about the newest sponsor on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. That is going to be Edge Boost. Edge Boost is the world's first bet now, pay later Visa card. Edge currently offers up to $2,500 in betting advances, which can be extremely valuable tool. Imagine what you can do with an increased bankroll. Get down on some of your favorite futures without tying up your bankrolls for months. Double down on your favorite bet you like, or even use to create an awesome middle or even hedge opportunity. Edge Boost isn't some sleazy loan shark. No, they charge 0% interest. Do you know of a way you can access more money to place on your favorite bets without paying any interest? No more haggling your grandparents or uncle, aunt, cousin, brother, sister, mom, or dad. Edge Boost is here for that. Again, like I mentioned, you can be a responsible gambling plan, as you can set up a daily, a weekly, or a monthly limits across all your betting accounts in one place. So Support SGPN and grow your bankroll by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge to sign up. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/edge. Must be 21 years or older to use. Problem gambling? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, guys, game 3 tips off on Wednesday night in Miami, and currently the lines sitting are the Denver Nuggets are a road favorite here, -2.5. Total is sitting at 214. Currently on the money line, I am seeing the Denver Nuggets are -140, and the Miami Heat are +120. Delonte, why don't you lead us off with your game 3 picks? Let's start here with the spread. Who do you like in this game?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Denver. I think the physicality and intensity will pick up on their end. Simply put, I mean, being called out is not fun for players. I'm assuming they don't want to hear about it or get questioned for the effort and intensity or lack of trust in the game plan, as Michael Malone said. So, I mean, I strictly think he was talking about 2 or 3 players, specifically Michael Porter Jr., KCP, and maybe a few others like Christian Braun or whatever. He's younger, but I mean, I thought Denver played well enough offensively. It's just defensively, like Scott was mentioning, they just left those shooters a lot more open than game 1, and were really, really open in game 1. So I think adjustment-wise, got to run them off the three-point line. They did a good job of that after that initial run in the first quarter by Miami, with Strus hitting those threes. They got comfortable. They settled in. And I think they just got to play better defensively. The zone isn't working to as much as people think. I mean, they're scoring at will on the zone, getting great looks. The thing that troubles me with Denver is when I first throughout the playoffs, they've been doing well as far as being resilient and answering when the other team answers, but they didn't do that in game 2. And Miami has 7 wins, with trailing by 12 plus this postseason. So going into this, they should know that they got to put them away. They're not going to go away easy. And I mean, KCP with the crazy fouls. I mean, he had 6 fouls, leading to 14 free throw attempts where Miami made 13. I mean, that's just uncalled for. A couple of those threes were a couple of those fouls on threes. So I think all in all, Denver is the side here. I think they'll be ready to go. They performed pretty well on the road. I mean, closed out Phoenix on the road, closed out LA on the road. So they're not prone to playing good on the road. So I think here, both teams defensively be locked in. I think it'll be a low scoring, tight game. And some of those role players play better for Denver, like KCP, Michael Porter Jr. And the bench played a big part in both teams. Early on, we saw Jeff Green, Bruce Brown, Christian Braun. We saw them get the energy going, and they were leading 20-5 bench points in the first half. But then we saw a flip and saw Miami's bench dominate the second half, which was with Lowry. Duncan Robinson had that stretch in the fourth quarter where he scored, I think, 7 or 8 straight. And then, I mean, Caleb Martin didn't play well. I don't know how much that has to do with his illness or whatever, but he did hit a big shot whenever Denver had momentum going. He had a big 3, I think, to put it back at 9. I think it was down to 6. So, yeah, man, I think both of those bench pieces are huge in game 3. You know, obviously, Tyler Herro coming back. I'm not sure how effective he'll be. I was reading some stuff also about him still experiencing like soreness and like discomfort as far as when he shoots. Not on the follow through is what he said in an interview with Rose of ESPN. So I'm not sure how effective he'll be, but I mean, you gotta wonder, like, if he's in the game, who's he taking away minutes from? You don't want to take away continuity and minutes from certain players like Strus, Vincent, even Martin. Although he's not playing bad, he's not playing good the first few games. I mean, he still has been a big contributor to the team's success in the postseason. So I don't know if you want to mess with that. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what they do with Herro. But I like the Nuggets to win here pretty comfortably, about 7 or 8 points on the road.
Scott, side.
Yeah, I leaned to Denver last night. I'm going to stay with it. Simply put, I know Miami was up double digits, and then Denver made it a very, very competitive game at the end. But it really felt like everything went right for Miami in game 2. The fact that they shot about 48% from 3, the fact that Porter Jr. and KCP were basically double agents the entire game. I don't know what they were doing for Denver the entire game. Joker still went for 40. Murray didn't have a great shooting night. Now, I will give credit to Jimmy Butler because even though the scoring hasn't been there fully in the series, he's been good at facilitating, and he's been good defensively because he was guarding Jamal Murray for portions of game 2, and I thought he did a good job. I still feel like Butler's injured and just nobody's talking about it, just based on the lack of explosiveness that we've seen so far in these first 2 games. And the quote that Butler had, where they asked him about the injury and he said, nobody cares. They're in the NBA Finals, nobody cares. But that doesn't mean he denied being injured. Like, he's clearly hurt. You can tell by how he's moving around out there. He's not moving at full speed. And even the shots that he made in game 2 at the end, they were all jump shots. He's really not getting to the rim with that much ease anymore. So I do think that when you're looking at Miami and what they're going to be doing moving forward, it does seem like Miami's main way of winning, I don't want to say only way of winning, but the main way is to get insanely hot from 3. And they've been doing it several times throughout the postseason. So I am aware that they've done it before, but expecting a team to shoot north of 45% from 3 in order to win a basketball game is a little bit too much to ask for me. I thought Denver still got good looks. Once again, Joker at 40. Like, I thought he was going to have a huge game. I just feel like Denver is still the better team, but I do think at the end of the day, Miami will keep it close. But unless Miami, once again, shoots insanely well from 3, Herro might come back. I'm not sure how he's going to look in game 3. So that's another variable you got to keep in mind. And not to mention the rotations that they're going to have to now change because Herro's going to be back in the lineup. I'm going to take Denver. I'm going to hope that Murray or Porter, or really any of these guys, bounce back. But Joker is still easily the most unguardable player in this entire series, and it's not even close. So if Joker's going to walk into a massive stat line, basically guaranteed, and Miami's going to have to get their offense piecemeal because Butler's banged up, I'm going to go with Denver.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Miami in this game. This line at 2.5, I think that, people talk about the zigzag theory, and I get it, right? That Denver won game 1. Miami came back and got game 2. You'll see the adjustments like we talked about made by Denver, whether it's effort or doing better on the 3-point line. I'm just a huge believer in Eric Spoelstra, man. Like, he's just so good at making those adjustments, whether it's pregame, whether it's in-game, whether it's halftime adjustments. And let's not forget that this Miami team doesn't roll over when they get down double digits. They've been down, 10, 15 points in the first 2 games, and they've came back and battled. They just don't roll over. And this is without Jimmy Butler being even close to 100% right now. I think the role players have been a little bit better than the Denver Nuggets role players have been right now. Gabe Vincent came out and played well in game 2. We talked about Max Strus playing well in game 2 as well. And I've always said that the role players seem to elevate their play at home. And I think that, we'll see Gabe Vincent continue to play well. Hopefully Max Strus is able to continue shooting well for the Miami Heat. The interesting part is the conversation of Tyler Herro, right? I think that's a conversation that we can have right now, is that what do we exactly expect? I know, Lante, you talked about some of the reports that you did read from ESPN that he's still experiencing some soreness, but what are we thinking? Maybe he plays 15, 20 minutes in his first game back in over a month here, Lante?
Yeah, I would think so. He's lined at 10 points. So, I guess that would be assuming that he's going to play at least in between that 15 and 20 minute range. Yeah. You can't get anything from Eric Spoelstra. I think he's frustrated with reporters every time they ask him a Tyler Herro or Nikola Jokic question. And he said before game 2 that Herro was kind of a ways away. And for him to be a ways away from the coach, who is basically the last line of defense, if he's going to play or not, I would assume. And now, 4 days later, thinking he's going to, be a big factor or a big contributor. I don't know. He does give them, ability to stretch the floor even more. But then again, he takes away on the defensive end because he's going to get hunted every time. Yeah. Every time he's on the floor, they're going to put him in pick and roll. And he can't hide on. He really can't hide on anybody on Denver. I'm interested to see how effective he is. And then again, like I was mentioning, if he's getting 15 to 20 minutes, then Strus, Vincent, even Duncan Robinson, Lowry, those guys are going to have to play less. Somebody's going to have to take a hit. Is it going to be Caleb Martin? It might be addition by subtraction with him being sick and not being able to play as well. We don't know. But my thing is, he would add another dimension to the pick and roll, floor spacer, and all that. But if he's having discomfort shooting, in shoot-arounds, what somebody, slaps the wrist or, he falls or he can't grab a rebound, it's just all sort of factors that I'm not sure how to factor in quite yet. It's kind of got to wait and see. But I mean, he will help them at the end of the day on the offensive end. I mean, no matter what, whether he's a decoy or not, just him being on the floor, being able to be a floor spacer and dribble handoff that he has a real good rapport with Bam. But overall, I mean, I'm just kind of different about how to feel about it, especially with the reports. I mean, you think he can go from his coach actually saying he's a ways away after game 1 to now, okay, I'm good to go in game 3. I don't see the parallel in that.
Yeah, I think that it came out, or the reports came out from Woj and Chumps that he was going to be returning for game 3. And maybe some smoke and mirrors coming from Eric Spoelstra. I mean, you're trying to play chess versus checkers when you get to this point of the season and this point of the playoff run. But
yeah, that's fair.
You kind of take a look at some of the minutes allocation from game 2, right? Kevin Love, 22 minutes. Gabe Vincent, 32 minutes. Max Strus, 29 minutes. Duncan Robinson, 17. Kyle Lowry, 24. So I think a combination of like maybe 5 minutes each from those guys. Like you take 4 minutes away from Kyle Lowry, Caleb Martin, if he's still not feeling well, some minutes come away from him. Max Strus, he finished the game 4 of 10, so he didn't score, or he didn't make another basket after that first quarter for the Miami Heat. He just had 2 more free throws at the end of the day. So he got off to a hot start, but nothing after that for the Miami Heat. So I think that, Spoelstra will figure it out on where the minutes allocation. Maybe, Jimmy Butler takes some minutes away from him, maybe 3 to 5 minutes, or maybe 3 minutes away from him, and give him some more rest on the bench. So we'll see. I'm with you. I'm curious to see how Tyler Herro does look. I think he does give him another dimension to score the basketball, but I think that how much rust is he going to have for the Miami Heat coming back, what it looks like in game 3 here. Scott, thoughts on Tyler Herro here?
Yeah, for me, I think he's probably going to take Martin's minutes if I had to guess on who's going to be the odd man out. It's tough to bench anybody else at this point. Duncan Robinson was maybe in line to get benched before the start of the fourth quarter when he dropped 10 points and he basically, I don't want to say saved Miami, but he set the tone in the fourth quarter. Lowry's been pretty good in the series for his limited role. Kevin Love had double-digit rebounds, but even for size purposes, Herro's not going to take his minutes. Vincent's been incredible. Yeah, you're running out of bodies. Like I just think that probably Highsmith and Martin will get their minutes reduced. Highsmith probably won't play, if I had to guess, but just assuming where Herro's going to get his minutes, it would be somewhere in that combination between Highsmith and Martin, especially since Martin is ill, or quote-unquote ill, because he hasn't really had a good series. So I'm not speculating he's not actually sick, but I am curious, how sick he actually is. The point is, it does seem like Miami's going to have to give Herro minutes because of how good he is and how much upside he has. But once again, the role players have been good in the series. So it's not like you have a lot of easy options on who to remove. I think it's probably Martin and Highsmith. I'll be on under Martin props because, once again, if Herro's going to play 15, 20 minutes, he's going to replace somebody. And I don't think he can replace anybody else, because I mentioned the guys a second ago. Everyone else has been good for Miami in the series. Even Strus has been good after a bad game 1.
And you got to play Love because he can help with Aaron Gordon and stop those seals and those post-ups.
And he can shoot.
Him. So that too.
Yeah,
who else is going to lose minutes? I'm assuming you agree it's probably Martin.
Yeah, I think it's some combination. So Highsmith played 6 minutes, and then Martin played 21 minutes, and I think some minutes come off from Max Strus. So those 3 players combined, 6 minutes, 21 minutes for Martin, and then 29 for Max Strus. So if you take let's say you take 4 minutes away from Strus, Highsmith doesn't play. That's 10 minutes right there, and then Cody Martin.
Can you really reduce Strus's minutes though after what happened in game 2? I know in theory you can, but I'm not sure if you can actually get him off the floor.
I mean, it was only really the first quarter where he shined, and after that, he just didn't really do anything.
Still,
yeah,
I like Strus. I like Strus defensively too. He's solid defensively.
So maybe he goes down to 25 minutes instead of 29 or 27 minutes. But we'll see, man. I think we'll talk about it more after Game 3 in the recap show and see whose minutes went down. But I agree that Kevin Love will probably remain in that starting lineup because he does give him that body to defend Aaron Gordon, but also gives that, like Scott mentioned, that he can shoot the basketball and obviously rebound the basketball and draw those charges as well. We've seen that so many different times from Kevin Love, not only this postseason, but all throughout his career. All right, before we get over to the total and then some player props, guys, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. Best Ball Mania 4 is here, and Underdog Fantasy is giving away $15 million in prizes, plus plenty of ways to win with NBA, NHL, and MLB with their player prop parlays. Head over to UnderdogFantasy.com and use promo code SGPN for a 100% deposit bonus of up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code SGPN. All right, guys, the total is currently sitting at 214. This number has been bet down. I believe it opened up at 215 and a half, if I'm not mistaken. Now sitting at 214. Scott, thoughts on the total here?
Yeah, initially I leaned to the over. I just figured that Denver would play with more pace. I still thought Denver got good looks offensively. Joker might go for 40 again. We'll see what happens there. Miami, on one hand, I think Denver will do a better job guarding the three-point line. But on the other hand, I do acknowledge that Denver offensively can play better if they take better care of the basketball. And Miami, I do think at the end of the day, found something against Denver's coverage, where even though I'm hoping Denver makes some adjustments to cover the guys, doesn't mean they actually will. So I think I'm going to lean to the over. I really don't feel great about the total, but it's mostly expecting Denver to continue playing well, going faster, and you're going to see, as a result, more possessions in this game. I'm going to lean to the over. I think I feel better about the side, but this total does feel a little bit low to me. I kind of want to wait to see who the refs are before I actually place any money on the over. It wasn't like game 2 where you just expected a correction with the refereeing and you'd end up getting an automatic over, but I'm going to lean over. I don't feel great about it, though.
Delonte, thoughts on the total at 214?
I like the under. I grabbed some 215 on the open. I missed the 215 and a half, but I still like it under 214. In game 2, it started off with a good pace, so it was looking good for the over, and then it kind of died down late second, early third quarter. I mean, Miami was doing no scoring. I think Denver went on. They flipped it from down 11 to 15, if I'm not mistaken, in between that first quarter and second quarter.
Yeah, but those were all Cody Zeller minutes, so they don't count. You know.
Yeah, well, that's fair. Yeah, so we know whose minutes won't get adjusted, and that's Cody Zeller. He'll be on the sideline coaching.
Oh, they will get adjusted because he's going to play 0 in game 3.
Yeah, so yeah, I think I mean, even at the end of the game, it took Miami scoring. We're having one of the best quarters in the NBA. They scored 36 points on 20 possessions. And
well, they should have like 68% in the fourth quarter.
Started off 7 of 7.
Yeah,
started off 7 of 7. So that was that's like a historic quarter for the NBA this season. Even at that, I mean, like you said, I think Denver is going to be clamped down defensively. I don't think they're going to get as many open looks. I know people are enamored with the open looks that Miami gets, but even on contested shots, they're shooting like sub 45% from 3 on contested shots. So, I mean, I think that comes to an end. 2 things that I want to see Denver do a better job is Miami running 2 things. They're running that double stack pick and roll where they're taking the 2 men and going to Michael Porter because he's in the corner, like kind of hiding a little bit. So taking him and putting him in action, and that's where they're getting confused, which is why Strus got off to a good start. So I want to defend that a little bit better. Also, I want to see them, like, if you notice another set that they run is they have Jimmy Butler and whoever's the best shooter on the floor. So I guess Max Strus or Vincent at the time, they'll empty out the right or left side and just operate from there. If you seen Vincent give the look, like he was wide open on that pick and roll with I think that's what you were talking about, Scott, with Braun, where he got lost because they didn't know what to do. They don't know if they should blitz G to get the ball out of his hand or if they should sag off. They can't sag off because, I mean, Jimmy's been shooting the ball well. But I say that to say I think Denver would be adjusted to those 2 actions. I think both of those actions caused a lot of confusion and a lot of wide open looks for Miami. So I think both teams come in. I think it'll be more so of a low 100s game. So give me the under. And I mean, just because Denver, you know, the game doesn't have to go over for both offenses to look good. In my estimation, I think you can still get a nice dose of good offense and it still go under. So I can see like 105, 99, 105, 102, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this game will definitely go under. Or hope I go under. Can't say definitely will go under, but I'm betting the under. And there's a lot of reasons that we talked about, or I talked about, as as a series kind of progresses from game 1 to game 2 to game 3s. Despite having bad shooting nights like Miami did, that kind of did push the total over in game 2. It was like pulling teeth getting that over, man. And I had a significant amount of money on that over in game 2. But there's stretches where Miami just has these like droughts of scoring the basketball, right? We saw it in game 2 where they got off to a great start shooting the basketball, and there was a point from, I want to say it was either 3 to 5 minutes that they had only scored about 3 to 5 points within that span. And as soon as that's when Jimmy Butler does go to the bench. But I think we'll see. And again, if Denver doesn't get back to playing with more pace, this game will probably stay under the total, because we've seen time and time again, not only during the regular season, but in the playoffs, when Denver is playing with pace, I think that's when they are at their best offensively. So for me, I do like the under 214. I agree with what you did say, Lante, that we probably see something in the realm of 105 to 102, something in that neighborhood, where this total does go under the number of 214 right now. Let's get over to some player props in this game here. Scott, why don't you lead us off with player props for game 3?
Yeah, so my favorite prop from the show last night was actually Butler over in assists at about 6.5. I thought about potentially taking the 10 plus. I mentioned that parlay at the end, but Butler, I think, is injured. Just simply put, you can tell the explosiveness is not there, and he's having to either settle for a bunch of jump shots or get his teammates involved. But Miami in the first 2 games has been so reliant on role players hitting 3-pointers. I don't see them changing their game plan. Now, Bam's been very good at going to the rim, and he's finished quite well. But for the most part, Butler's been a facilitator in the first 2 games. And you can make an argument that, Butler is maybe pacing himself for a massive scoring game, which is what most people want you to think.
Yeah.
I just think he's injured. As simple as that sounds. I feel like you can definitely tell he's either pacing himself offensively in individual games and taking more shots in the fourth quarter like he did in game 2, or you can just tell that he can't really create much separation. He's barely going to the free throw line, which is a big source of his points. So I like the assists for Butler because he has been more of a facilitator in the series. And I'm also going to lean to the under on Butler points at 25.5. But once again, if he's barely getting to the free throw line, then why would I assume he's going over? Because people can expect him to flip a switch. I disagree with that. I just think he's hurt. I feel like people are expecting Butler to channel something that we saw earlier in the playoffs. When was the last time Butler had a massive game? Game 2 against Boston?
You say game 7, he had 28
In
against
28,
Boston.
a lot of it was fourth quarter backdoor cut garbage time stuff.
Yeah.
But
12 of 28. I think that was the most points that shot attempts that he had by far in that series. But let me kind of go back and look.
He attempted what, 2 free throws in that entire game?
Yeah, he was only 1 of 2 from the free throw line. And then he had a 35 piece in game 1 against Boston, 12 of 25, 9 of 10 from the free throw line. So it almost seems like, that he's kind of waiting where he gets to that crucial point where, like, later in the series where it's like Miami can take a 3 games to 2 lead, or their series clinching games. That's that where he kind of does step up. But I mean, again, it may be a combination of an injury. It may be a combination of fatigue for him. But there is something there. I'm sure we're going to hear about it after the series is over. And I think at 25.5, I'm with you on the under, and I 100% agree about the over on his assists. First 2 games of the series, he's had 9 assists in game 2 and 7 assists in game 1. Any more props, Scott?
Besides that, though, I do feel like I kind of have to go back to Vincent points.
Okay.
He's just been so good in this series, and when you're looking at Herro coming back and once again who that might impact, I don't think that's going to impact Vincent that much because he's still a very, very good shooter who comes off screens. He can dribble as well, so he does have a lot of dimensions to his offensive game. I like the over on Vincent, though. I thought he was great in game 2, and even in game 1, I thought he was pretty good compared to the rest of the team. So I like Vincent over. I think I have to go back to Joker points just because if Miami's going to continue trying to shut down everybody else and they're going to keep letting Joker cook, Joker's going to cook. I mean, that's why I thought he'd go for 40 in game 2, and he did, because I just figured Spoelstra's main adjustment was, we can't stop this guy. Let's stop everybody else. And that's exactly what happened in game 2. Joker's not going to stop shooting because he got a bunch of great looks in the lane, and he made a bunch of them. So give me Joker points again. I just think he's going to have himself a big scoring game because, once again, Miami's going to defend accordingly. And I know Spoelstra half called out Ramona Shelby or Shelburne.
Right.
And, you know,
Right.
is that her name? It's Ramona,
Yeah, Ramona
Shelburne.
Shelburne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shelburne. Yeah. So her and some of the fans, the casual eye fans, so to speak. But yeah, they definitely tried to make Joker a score. I mean, I guess Spoelstra didn't want to fully admit it to give away part of the game plan, but it's obvious they tried to make Joker a score. So I don't see anything changing there. I like the Joker over in points.
Kind of going back to your Gabe Vincent point, I do like him on his points as well, but do you think that maybe the better bet is over 2.5 threes at even money? Because in games, at least the first two games.
What's the exact point number at? Is that 12.5?
13.5 at minus 135 on DraftKings right now.
And what's the 2.5 threes?
Even money.
I mean, I'd rather take the 2.5 threes at even money because if he's going to score 14, he's gonna hit 3.
Yeah, and that's exactly my point, right? So 7 of 14 in game 1, 5 of 10 from 3-point land, and then in game 2, he was 8 of 12 from the floor, 4 of 6 from 3-point land. So I think that he's more than capable of knocking out that mid-range jump shot, but the open looks that Miami Heat shooters are getting right now, especially guys like Gabe Vincent, that I think that I like the 2.5 points, or sorry, 2.5 3-points shots made better for Gabe Vincent. But I mean, I can't argue against over 13.5 because kind of correlated there that if he's going to get over his points projection, he's also going to get over the 3-point mark that is set by the books right now at 2.5. Delonte, what do you got? Player props.
Yeah, one of my favorite ones of the slate. I mean, you mentioned it earlier. Well, kind of hinted at it earlier. Like Bruce Brown over 10.5 points. I mean, he ended the game with a plus 14. He was one of only 2 Denver players with a positive plus minus. So I'm interested to see how Malone adjusts Michael Porter Jr. and KCP and Brown or Braun, however he pronounces it. I never know. So they've been underwhelming in both games. So Brown, like I said, it gives him an extra ball handler, shot creator, floor spacer, and he's better on defensive end than Michael Porter Jr. and Christian Braun also. So I would expect his minutes to stay around 25 to 27, I think. And when he's given that that range of numbers, then he's over this number in 9 of the 10 games. So I'd expect his usage rate to skyrocket and him to go over this number. Also like KCP over 1.5 threes. I think it's a good buy low spot for KCP. He's been getting open looks. He just can't find a rhythm to hit 2 or more. He's had 1 in each of the first 2 games, but he's over in the last 4 road games. And he's over in the last 4 road games of the postseason. And I think the looks will be there. He just gotta hope they drop, and I think they'll end up dropping. He'll gain some more confidence. He plays better, shoots better on the road. So those are the 2 that I like. I'm interested in some Kyle Lowry stuff. I just don't, like I said, I'm trying to be selective in what I do with the Heat play, like players props, until we get an official word on Herro and his. I guess I don't know if they'll go into detail about how much he'll play, but I'm kind of waiting on the Heat side. But I do like some Lowry props. I think he actually needs to play more. Some of the things that he does defensively, his shot making has been great. He's been passing the ball, getting those guys involved, and I like him over. I think it's 14.5 points, rebounds, and assists. But just kind of wait it out and see what Tyler Herro does. I like Jamal Murray, 11.5 rebounds and assists. Probably going to keep betting it for the rest of the series. He's been smashing. He had 10 plus in both games, 10 plus assists in both games. Rebounding the ball really, really well. So I think that continues here, especially with blitzing him off that pick and roll. Bam over rebounds and assists, 30.5. Same applies. Ball's going to be his hands. He's rebounding the ball really well. Probably having the MVP, Finals MVP.
He'd be my vote right now.
Yeah, for the first 2.
I did bet him at plus 750.
Yeah, I got him before the game 2. I think around like 8-1. So
yeah. Do you remember what it was before the series started?
I think it was like 40-1, if I'm not mistaken. Like 40.
Damn it, golly!
I think it was like 30.
It had to have been way up there.
Yeah,
I think it was like 30.
Joker, Butler, and Murray were below him. So
yeah. I think Murray was like 10-1.
Yeah, probably. I mean, Denver was a massive favorite in the series, so Bam being at 40, I would have guessed like 30-1 if I had to guess. But
yeah. So yeah, I'm thinking that that Bam. I mean, he's been distributing the ball a lot better. He ended up on 13 last game, but he blew over it in game 1. I think much of the same. I mean, he's going to have the ball in his hands more. If you notice, he's been pushing the ball up more. Butler's been more so in the post and like playing. He's been playing more in a facilitated role, like Scott mentioned earlier. So I like him over 13.5 rebounds and assists. Also.
Yeah, I like Bam. I mean, we talked about that if Jimmy Butler is not going to be effective on the offensive end, that somebody's going to have to step up, and that guy has been Bam, at least over the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. And I know Delonte went into detail there, but just kind of reading off the numbers, what he's done in the first 2 games: 26 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists, and then 21 points, 9 rebounds, 4 assists. I wish he was a little bit more aggressive, because he's had those opportunities where he's dribbling the ball down the floor and he has Jokic in front of him, and he just like dribbles to the free throw line, just kind of passes it away. And I wish he would just attack the basket and try to draw some fouls on the Joker and get to the free throw line for the Miami Heat. But game 1, he had 25 shot attempts. He made 13 of them. And then in game 2, almost cut in half, where he only had 14 field goal attempts, but he still finished up the game with 21 points. But I know my guy Wham is on the over for his PRA, points, rebounds, and assists at 32.5. Love that. Also on the Jamal Murray assist as well, like Delonte mentioned. He's had 10 assists in each of the first 2 games of the NBA Finals. And, you know, if Miami Heat's game plan is to make Jokic a scorer and kind of take the ball out of Jamal Murray's hand, he's probably going to rack up those assists and maybe find Joker for those open, you know, easy shots, or even find some of the shooters for the Denver Nuggets, whether it's KCP, whether it is Michael Porter Jr., if he starts knocking them down, or even if it is Bruce Brown as well. So 6.5 for his assists. I also did like the Jimmy Butler assist as well. For everything that Scott mentioned, I'm not going to regurgitate everything, but those are the ones that I was looking at. And then also I did like Gabe Vincent over 2.5 threes made, 2.5 3-point shots made for the Miami Heat. The one I was also intrigued about, kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on it, is just depending on how many minutes Kevin Love does play. Right now, the number has kind of gotten away where it's at 4.5 at -175, at least over on DraftKings. But if Kevin Love does play another, let's say, 20 minutes, I definitely think that he's going to get over this number. But it's just, again, depends on if he's going to play those amount of minutes, because he did start game 2 with the starting lineup adjustment that Eric Spoelstra did make. And that was the most minutes he's played for the Miami Heat since, let's see here.
Well, he was a healthy scratch for the end of that Boston series and the beginning of the Denver series.
Yeah, so the last time he played 20-plus minutes was all the way back against New York in game 4, where he did play 23 minutes. So that's something I keep an eye on. But do you guys have any thoughts on Kevin Love if he continues to play those minutes, Scott?
I think I'd rather take the rebounds if I had to pick a prop there, because Love, even though he's still roughly 7 feet tall, he's barely in the actual lane on offense. He's pretty much a spot-up 3-point shooter, and I believe he had 6 points in game 2 from 2 3-pointers. So once again, he didn't even attempt the layup as far as I'm concerned in that game. I think I'd rather take the rebounds. I know that Delonte mentioned before that the main adjustment using him in game 2 was also for size to guard Aaron Gordon.
Right.
And we know Gordon can't shoot. So I do think that Kevin Love is going to be in the lane, helping out on the glass, trying to keep Joker from going crazy on the boards. If I had to pick a Kevin Love prop, it would be rebounds rather than points. Because once again, I think if Love's going to score points, then just take his threes, because he's going to have to hit threes to go over the points anyway. So give me the rebounds for Love instead.
Yeah, I was looking to ladder it up for Kevin Love, but it just kind of depends on how many minutes he does play for the Miami Heat. Lance, thoughts on Kevin Love?
Yeah, I'll just expand on it. I mean, you like points, Scott likes the rebounds. I
meant rebounds. I'm sorry if I said points. I meant his rebounds.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, I like all 3. I like his points, rebounds, and assists. I think he'll be able to. I mean, his outlet passes are so good that the rebounds could lead to assists. I mean, we saw him lead to. I think it was a take foul on Joker on Bam on that outlet. So I think his outlets are full effect. And
it wasn't even a take foul. It was a clear path foul, which turned out to be pretty important later on in the game.
Right. So, yeah, man, I'm in lockstep with you guys on that. I think that he has a good game on both ends. I think he has to be implemented in the game just simply because the Denver won't be able to go to Aaron Gordon in the post as much, or they won't have to double off on Joker as much with Kevin Love in the paint. So I agree with that. I'll look to play his threes like Scott said, because I think that's plus money if I'm not mistaken. So I like Kevin Love a lot for the rest of the series. I thought he was a key player in the series, and I think he'll continue to be that just simply due to his size and the way he rebounds the ball.
Yep. All right, guys. Let's get into our lock and dog for Game 3 of the NBA Finals. Lonte, you want to lead us off?
Sure. Yeah. So I mean, I'll make it simple. I'm gonna go for my lock. I'm going with Denver Nuggets, laying the point. I think there'll be more energy, more effort, more attention to detail. I think they'll be able to stop the Heat from limit, not stop. I think they'll be able to limit some of the spurts that Miami goes on. Like you mentioned, Munaf, I think that's the big. I think you hit on the head. Whereas Miami goes those spurts without scoring, and I think Denver capitalized on that in certain aspects. They specifically did it in Game 1, which is why they ran away with the game. But in Game 2, we had lapses where they didn't score either. So I think they'll be more inclined to take advantage of those minutes. Now, Joker's rested a lot more in the fourth quarter. Now, I know it has a lot to do with how the bench is playing, but I would bring him in a little bit earlier. Just to go for the knockout punch. We saw Michael Malone do it in Game 1, where usually Joker rests in the fourth quarter. He wanted to go for that knockout punch. I mean, it didn't work out because Miami was hitting those threes early on, but he ended up resting them with around 7 minutes to go. So and bringing them back around like the 4-minute mark. So I think he has to take that approach, put Miami away. I think defensively they'll be a lot better, and I don't expect KCP to foul out or miss that many shots. So I like Denver laying the points here. As for a dog, I'm gonna be honest. I'm probably just gonna, if you can skip me, I'll put together a player prop parlay and come back.
All right, Scott, you want to give us your lock and dog?
Yeah, sure. So my lock, I mentioned it before. It's going to be my favorite prop. I'm going to take Butler over 6.5 assists, roughly minus 120, give or take. Simply put, he's had at least 7 in each of the first 2 games. I've mentioned several times on the show, I think he's injured, so I think he's going to keep being a facilitator because he really can't get to the lane for free throws that much anymore. So I see him getting the role players involved again from the three-point line. Bam as a roller to the rim, I think, might have some success as well. He already has had success in the first 2 games. He had that and one poster dunk on Porter Jr., for example. But I'm going to go with Jimmy Butler over 6.5 assists. I think he's in line for a good facilitating game.
And your dog?
Yeah, my dog for this one, it's going to be a baby dog, but I still like it. I'm going to go with Gabe Vincent over 2.5 threes at plus 106. Simply put, he's been really, really stellar in this series, and we saw how good he was in Game 2. After Strus went nuclear in the first quarter, Vincent kind of carried them the final 3 quarters from the three-point line, and Robinson for a burst there in the fourth quarter. But Vincent, I really like as a player. I just think that he's a very solid three-point shooter who knows exactly how to come off screens, knows how to create separation, and he can also dribble, so he can also potentially be a ball handler in pick-and-roll sets. Give me Vincent over 2.5 threes at plus 106.
All right. All right. For my lock, I'm going to take the under in the game, under 214. Shop around you. There are some 214.5 still out there. But again, I just think that if a lot of it is predicated on if Denver is going to be playing with pace. And it seems like that Eric Spoelstra is making adjustments in games to kind of combat that and slow Denver down. We see spurts of it from Denver, but I think that Miami's doing a good job defensively, whether those are in-game adjustments or just getting back on defense and trying to slow down this Denver Nuggets offense. I think Miami as well. You talk about Jimmy Butler being compromised or with an injury or if it's fatigue, whatever the case might be, that if they do have a bad shooting night, that they won't be able to put up as many points as they did in Game 2 at 111. And again, I was on the over in Game 2, and that was like pulling out teeth trying to get that over. And Miami has those droughts like we talked about, whether it's the start of the second quarter or into the first quarter, where if it's not Jimmy Butler on the floor, it gets very difficult for them to score points. So I like the under here. I think we all like the under. So I know, Scott, you're still waiting for the ref report. So I know, Lonte, you do like the under as well. So under 214 for me in Game 3 as my lock. For my dog, I did put together a same game parlay. So get your pens and papers out. It is going to be plus 425. I'm going to go with Bam 30+ points, rebounds, and assists. Jamal Murray over 6.5 assists, and then Aaron Gordon to record at least one block shot, and that will get you plus 425. So Bam PRA 30+, Jamal Murray over 6.5 assists, and Aaron Gordon at least one block gets you plus 425 as my dog. Lante, did you get your dog ready?
Yeah, I did. All right, everybody keep your pencils out because I got a player prop parlay. So we're gonna go with Bruce Brown for 10+ points. We're gonna go with Caldwell, KCP to make 2+ threes, and Michael Porter Jr. to make 2+ threes, and one more will be Jamal Murray over 6 or 6+ assists. I'm sorry, and that roughly pays out. Let's see, that plays out plus 420. So you can get plus 420 on that. I like it a lot. I like all four guys. I think they have room to make a lot of jump shots. And you touched on the Murray assist. I've been on his rebounds and assists all series long. So I think that'll be no problem for him, especially with how Miami's defending him. So I like that a lot. I like the player prop a lot. That player prop parlay a lot.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. Again, there has to be a Michael Porter Jr. bounce back game at some point for the Denver Nuggets. And again, I think we talked about at the beginning of the series that it's really going to be on Michael Porter Jr. as one of the main X factors or key factors that if Denver is going to win this title. Scott, you are getting called out by one of our fanboys in the chat.
I think you mean co-host, but yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I don't mind the Vincent over for the threes as well for the alternative line. I see 4+ at plus 290. He only attempted 6 threes in game 2, but he made 4 of them, and he went 5 of 10 in game 1. So yeah, you have no argument for me. I think Vincent's got a shot for 20 points in this game. So yeah, maybe if you feel better about taking the points instead of the 4+ threes, you can. But I'm still going to take the 4+ threes at plus 290 as well. So it's kind of like a baby ladder in a way. But 4+ threes at 290 for a guy that's made at least 4 in each of the first 2 games in the series does feel like a pretty good deal. I'll take the Vincent 4+ threes as well.
All right. That will do it for this edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast. Lante, anything else you want to mention before we get out of here, buddy? Nope, you're on mute. There you go.
Nope, I'm good. Good luck, everybody. Hope everybody cashes some tickets unless you're against me.
Scott, anything else?
No, not really. Just looking forward to game 3 and hopefully make some money.
Definitely. Hopefully we can all make some money, put some money in your guys' pockets. Game 3 on Wednesday. Definitely enjoy it. The guys will be back later in the week for game 4, and I'll recap game 3 as well. Getting closer and closer to the end of NBA basketball, so shed a tear every time one game does get completed here in the NBA Finals. But we're gonna have a lot of off-season coverage for the NBA. We'll talk about free agency, summer league. We'll talk about some draft stuff, and we'll recap divisions at the end of the season. So we won't be daily, but we'll go at least 2 to 3 times a week at least for the NBA, and then hopefully gearing up right before we know it, the new season will be started. All right, guys, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.